Good morning. Welcome to another SJU. It is Tuesday. I am a Danielle Radford. Hello. Nice to see you. I have brought with me a Billy Business.
Hello.
Hello. A Spencer Gilbert.
One, please.
And a Vanessa Gritton.
I'm slowly sinking.
Vanessa drew the short straw and is in the sinking chair this morning.
I am the short straw.
It's true. You are pocket-sized and lovely. So we've got some great stories today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Avengers video game preview that we saw from E3. We're going to be talking about some movie to video game adaptations. We're going to get into some Frozen 2. We're going to talk about the new Dune series. It's all very exciting. So first of all, again, this is E3, so there's all kinds of game announcements and everything coming out. So Avengers A-Day, which is a confusing title. It's just a day.
It's A-Day, Danielle. It's A-Day.
Oh, it's A-Day.
Yeah.
Avengers A-Day.
Avenger A Day.
Avengers A Day.
Avengers A Day. One Avenger a day
Yeah.
keeps the doctor away. It released its first cinematic look yesterday for E3 and has the internet assembling to talk about
Stop.
it. Ryan, how dare you?
Stop.
Ryan.
Look at all those Kroger brand Avengers. Are we talking about this yet? You want to cue us up?
No, I mean, I feel like we can get right into it. The official synopsis.
We captured the stunt doubles, you idiots!
And we have the comment section live and in person here doing commentary.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it begins at A-Day, where they're revealing high-tech Avengers headquarters in San Francisco. The celebration turns deadly. The Avengers are blamed for the tragedy, as we always do. It was announced in 2017. No one really knows. We haven't really gotten to see what the gameplay is going to be like or any of the mechanics. So first of all, what did everyone think of the trailer? Spencer, please.
It's like you're looking for the Avengers, but or like Fruit Loops, but you can't afford it, so you look at the first level of the shelf and it's fruit circles.
And yet they taste just the same, Spencer.
Same.
Something's
The savvy
off, man.
shopper
Something's
knows.
a little bit off.
The bank cereal is just as good.
Yeah, you just got to put it in some containers. keep it fresh.
I have like a little cereal dispenser for that. It makes me feel like it's more special, even though it's like 86 cents. One thing I found really interesting about the design of the trailer is it felt like they didn't really want to go like full comic book, but they also didn't want to go full movie, so they just kind of landed somewhere in the middle. And I feel like maybe animation-wise, if they just go full comic book. Just go full comic book if you're not going to go full movie, because it has that like weird familiar feeling, I think, that you were kind of
It's an uncanny valley thing, and not because it's like too lifelike but just off, but just because it's too close to their movie versions but just off. So they're inviting the comparison, whereas like, I don't know, like Marvel versus Capcom, or like the other, like the Spider-Man game, or Ultimate Alliance. Like there's all these other Marvel games where they just make them styled like a comic, or at least have their own visual style. So you're not like, well, that's the MCU-ish.
Yeah. Well,
see, I don't mind it, because I think it's I see what they're trying to do, and what they're trying to do is have it just familiar enough so that people who are into the MCU are going to come in but do their own new story. I feel like that approach really worked well with Spider-Man for PS4, where it's not, because it's not modeled on any of the movies. It is very much doing its own thing, but it acknowledges the movies. You get to be able to buy costumes, and there's a nod to it, and that was one of the best games.
I'm sure they'll let you buy costumes in this one. That's a guarantee.
Actually, no, didn't they say that there isn't going to be any kind of DLC or anything like that?
They said no loot boxes, but that doesn't mean they won't charge you, a nickel here, a dime there to get, a different stripe on Cap's suit.
I'm excited to see what the different characters like playable styles are, because anytime we have like a lineup like this, it's like, cool, I get to be the bruiser now, or who's going to be the one that I maybe could do like the long range attacks, and what an Avengers game has been like ripe for the different kinds of playable characters for like, different kinds of scenarios type games.
Well, and this is one medium where they're kind of falling behind. DC has a lot of great games. They've got Injustice, all of the different Batmans. They have every kind of Batman for whatever kind of Batman you would like.
Superman 64.
Oh, yikes. We can talk about that later. Oh, boy. Yikes. But so they've kind of already had done a good job with some of these games. It feels like Marvel is now really trying with this. They've teamed up with Square Enix, who brought us Final Fantasy VII. We know we're on a game channel, but we're trying to give people a little bit of background on some of this. So what do you think that this is a smart move for them to try to get into gaming by specifically almost using the MCU, but not quite using the MCU?
I don't understand this criticism at all. It's like the Spider-Man game came out. We were all like, awesome, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
And then this came out. It's like, no, it doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr. It's like, whoa, neither do 80 years of the comic books either. Those don't look like Robert Downey Jr. They look kind of, because they kind of modeled him after that.
That's clearly based on the MCU. That Hulk and that Thor.
I don't agree with you. Oh. I flat out reject your premise, sir.
You don't like chunky Tony Stark?
Oh,
I like chunky Stark.
Yeah, chunky Stark is amazing. He's got a little bit of fluff in the neck. Look at that. He looks like he could save the world and sell you a car right afterwards.
That's like Mark Ruffalo and John Stamos had a kid. Like, they're definitely starting with the MCU designs and then tweaking them so they don't get sued or don't have to pay the actors. That's definitely what's happening on that screen right now.
But go back and look at the Peter Parker that's in the Spider-Man game. Like, it looks like a little bit of the Andrew Garfield with aspects of Tobey Maguire mixed into.
I guess for Spider-Man we're used to 100 different people playing him, but also with the Spider-Man one, it showed us the game, and this, I feel like this showed us more like a trailer, a cutscene.
Sure, there were like a couple moments I'm like, is that from the game? I think it was like Iron Man flying and Hulk smashing something. I'm like, that could be.
And also with Spider-Man, we've seen the game before. Like when we saw the Spider-Man trailer, like, sweet, that game has proven time and time again to be a great game. It's a big open sandbox. We know the gameplay. We're really familiar with it. It's really engaging. Like, this one, I'm just kind of speculating about gameplay versus Spider-Man. I'm like, I know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, because this is multiplayer. Yeah. I don't want to play through a movie with my friends. I don't want my friends to be like, teabag, 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 while like Cap and Tony are like trying to have a moment.
If you can't teabag with your friends, then what are video games even for, man? What are we doing here? If I can't teabag Steve Rogers, then I'm not plunking down 60 for that.
Unless you can plunk your bag down on Steve Rogers' forehead.
I want America's ass right in my big chunky Stark face. That's what's gonna get my cash.
Gaming analysis.
Gaming analysis. This is what you come here for, specifically for us to talk about video game booties.
It's in the game. Captain America's sack. It's in the game.
Only if we're lucky, y'all. Only if we're lucky. And so this game has got to be able to do a bunch of different things. It's got to start off, this new partnership with them working together with Square Enix. It's also got to be a good game. It also has to do start its own game universe. Does it feel like there are maybe too many expectations placed on this game?
I guess so. I didn't know that there were so many expectations. This is the start of a whole Marvel gaming interconnected universe. I did not know that.
The whole purpose of them teaming up with Square Enix is that they're really trying to bust into video games because they haven't had, they've done great. They look great with all the Capcom stuff and other games, but when they've done stuff on their own, it hasn't quite hit.
Yeah.
And so this is part of a big partnership. They're really trying to crack into the video game market.
Well, then just do what you did with the movies and go one at a time. Make a great Iron Man game. They've already made a great Hulk game back in the naughty oddies.
Naughty oddies.
Yeah.
Black Widow would make an amazing stealth game.
Black Widow would make, yeah, exactly.
Oh, you could do that like a Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. Ooh.
Put it in a box.
And Thor would be like 1 versus 100, like a Dynasty Warriors thing. You could give all
like
of them.
Shadow of Colossus.
Yeah, you could totally give them all, or God of War, all their own little franchises, and then do the big team up game. I don't know if that works for video games, but are they Justice League in it?
I mean, maybe.
Is this another premature league?
Not confirmed.
Sorry?
It's like there's hints, but it's not confirmed.
Yeah, so there's hints, but it's not confirmed, but we do know that they're trying to crack into this market, specifically using this game. And there's also, they're saying that there are going to be other characters, because a lot of people are like, where's Hawkeye? Because that poor Hawkeye always winds up getting left out of stuff.
Sweet little Hawkeye.
Yeah, so
if he's a choosable character, is he really the first one that you're going to go to? Really?
Yes. For a little bit. Until the novelty wears off.
I feel like he would be like, if you, that's you get like a special like achievement or something if you go through the whole game as Hawkeye.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you have like no powers.
Well, especially if it's multiplayer. It's like, Hawkeye, keep a lookout. We'll go down below.
Maybe he'll get like a healing arrow. It'll be like you can be support.
Hawkeye, tell us where the bad guys are coming from.
It's just heroin. Giving
himself haircuts.
Good to go.
Glorified drone.
Morphine.
But yeah, so this is obviously the internet's got all these opinions about the game. Most people are saying what you were saying, which is I don't want Kmart brand Avengers in my Avengers game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything of the new one, but there's another Ultimate Alliance game coming out. They made a few of them back in the day, and it was like 4-player, like you're kind of overhead, and like you're just mashing buttons and blowing up bad guys with your friends.
So fun.
And yeah, you can swap out characters, and like you can go crazy in a video game, which is what's fun and what's the possibility of it as opposed to a movie. Like you can have Magneto and Black Widow like throwing each other around the room at giant robots and stuff like that, and just go crazy. Don't feel like you need to ground it in reality like the movies do. Like have fun.
It's a big reason why Spider-Man works so well, because it also leans so deeply into its comic book roots. Like you find a little piece of Mysterio's helmet, and you can use all of these different, like every single suit based on every single insane costume iteration. It's not embarrassed of its comic book oranges. Oranges. It's like the word Arnold Palmer. I have to like think about it before I go for it. But like it's not embarrassed of the comic book beginnings. It leans into it.
But we don't know that that's not the case with this. This doesn't come out for a year. This is like 2 minutes.
I know, we're speculating on the
fighting
internet.
soldiers on a bridge. That's like some MCU shit.
I'm gonna teabag you in the face when it turns out that it's really all like Galactus at the end, and that's what it is.
We have HR, right? Like,
but that's what you say. You like go crazy. It's like, well,
it's a virtual teabagging
I
disclaimer.
will virtual teabag you.
You get teabagged in the video game. You get teabagged in real life.
It's not against the rules. But you just said like, why ground it? It's like, well, because you have your Ultimate Alliance coming. Like, there's that game, and you can go nuts on that, and then you can have kind of like the more semi-realistic like Spider-Man way of going, which who knows what this is going to be. It doesn't come out for a year.
Yeah.
Well, we do. So I want to bring out, because aside from us, we have a huge Spider-Man PS4 fan in the building, and I wanted to get him over here so that he can tell us.
Oh, JT.
So that he can tell us what he loved so much about Spider-Man PS4.
Stepping
Ladies and gentlemen, coming in hot.
Swing it in.
JT.
Fun trivia fact, we actually gave JTE Spider-Man the game when he was recuperating at home from losing his teeth.
Yeah, they're still missing. I lost my battle to Birdo.
To a vulture. Yeah.
Vulture.
Some kind of bird.
It's hard to say what I love about the game. I will say this, like, when I saw those pictures, it felt like it's like some company who shouldn't have the Avengers is making an Avengers game. A year and a half ago, they came out with a Rambo game, and it was by some like fourth third-party developer, and it looked horrible. It looked nothing like Stallone. It looked like just awful. So I do.
Did it make you sad?
It made me really sad.
It wasn't based off the book, though.
Because it was Rambo 3 mostly. Like, especially from the videos they showed, it was like lots of Rambo 3. He was in Afghanistan for a lot of it.
Rambo back!
Rambo 3!
Fighting alongside our brave Mujahideen soldiers.
But those, even for the comics, these characters don't look even close to their comics. Spider-Man is so much about love of the comics making its way into a video game, like Vanessa was saying, and you felt that throughout the whole game. It was like little Easter eggs. Even if you weren't like a huge Spider-Man head, I learned stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to learn anything from this Avengers game outside of what you saw probably in the movies, but who knows? I could be wrong, but it does look like it's missing that stylistic voice that Spider-Man had, and the graphics just look better in that Spider-Man game. The way the game kind of shifts from like a cinematic to when you're actually playing, it was seamless.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what this game has from some of the scenes in there. I was like, I hope those are cutscenes. I hope those are actual scenes of the game where they just go seamless into the video game, into the cinematics and all that stuff. But yeah, Spider-Man saved my life. Thanks, you guys. I couldn't move my right arm, and playing that game, I just had to go. I just had to do it. I had to be Spider-Man, so thank you.
The Rock flexing out of the cast. All right.
Thank
well
you,
done.
JT. JT, video game, thanks. Thank you for your thoughts. It makes me really happy that saved. Man, DJ saved some people's life.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 4 saved, or PS4 saved.
Last night, Spider-Man saved my life.
So talking about, he mentioned that Rambo game and how that didn't work. Movie game licensing has been an issue for years. We're going into our next part. We're going to talk a little bit about the movie licensing problem. I've talked about before how I used to work as the assistant manager of video games. A lot of it was
The assistant manager of video games?
Yeah, at a store.
Yeah.
Of all
Not all video games. Of all video games everywhere.
Wow.
I had such power.
Yeah.
And then I let it go to pursue
Nice.
Danielle movie things. So I I would say 50% of my job was trying to convince moms and parents not to buy horrible like movie adaptations for their kids because they're not great. So, but there have been some great ones as well. So, what are your favorite video games based on movies?
Right off the bat, GoldenEye.
Oh yeah.
That's that's a masterclass in movie to video game. Because it's not just, hey, look, we're doing the movie. It's an actual excellent gameplay style. Like GoldenEye, if you had siblings, this is how you held court and solved issues.
Yep.
This is how you regulated amongst your siblings.
It's also how you created lifelong feuds because somebody, Craig, would put proximity mines on all the respawn points. That's low blow.
Slappers only, man. For me, it's I think I mentioned Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which was a great one. The Batman games are great. I like a little game called the Die Hard trilogy for the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
3 games in one. None of them had too much to do with Die Hard. I guess they sort of did. The one game was like a beat 'em up where you're just like punching your way through a skyscraper. Also a great game, Die Hard Arcade, like a real quarter muncher back in the day where the president's daughter had been kidnapped at the top of a building. And I'm pretty sure they just reskinned like some other Japanese game. Like, now it's John McClane. Punch your way up. The second game was like a light gun game. And then the third game was like you're driving around with Sam Jackson, like yelling instructions at you. Just fantastic. So much bang for your buck. Get all 3 Die Hards in one game.
All 3 Die Hards. What about you, Billy?
I would say 2. Way better than their movies, actually. X-Men Origins Wolverine had like the most fun, just go through and just slash everything in your path type of game. And then the other one that I still think is one of the best racing games is the Episode 1 pod racing game for N64. It's like the fastest racing game.
The arcade version of that was really fun as well. It was a great game.
That's legit.
The arcade version of Jurassic Park was really fun.
Okay.
I used to work at GameWorks too for a while. A lot of my early career was game stuff, and so I would get to play some of those. Yeah, the Jurassic Park one was really
Did
really
you play
delightful.
the Super Nintendo Jurassic Park one where it was like you were like overhead looking at like little Lego Alan, and then you would go like Doom style into the into the bunkers.
Played it on an emulator actually. It was really fun.
Terrifying.
That was one of the. I'd like to give a special shout out to the 101 Dalmatians game because it was simple concept. There's a bunch of Dalmatians. Find them.
Yeah.
That's all I needed for
great.
For an afternoon. There's 101 of them. Find them. That's
Disney had
it.
some good ones. The Aladdin one was good.
Aladdin was legit.
Aladdin was really, really good.
It was
frustrating.
The Genesis one, the correct choice.
Yeah, it was like Prince of Persia, but the Prince of Persia I could kind of play.
Yeah, that was super fun. But yeah, the Aladdin one is kind of the good version of what movie games used to be, which was like it's a side scroller, but we put like a tiny Wayne from Wayne's World in there and replaced all the coins from Mario with guitars. Go have fun.
Yeah, I'm totally good with that too.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it being a clone of
Did you ever
something
play
better.
the Home Improvement game?
No, but I'll bet you did.
I bet you own
It's
5 copies.
amazing. You're Tim the Toolman Taylor, and he builds like a set of a jungle, and then animals like infiltrate the jungle, and you have to like shoot them with your drill gun.
That's morbid.
Yeah, it's great.
So he creates what in the law would call an attractive nuisance, does not protect it with a fence. These animals come in and then he slaughters them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're
Endangered
like
man.
creatures. They're not like animals. I don't know. And so they're not like real animals. I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird. It's great.
When he gets
I
hit,
love
does he
it.
go,
He does the whole time. The whole game. It's just like a really bad like 5 kilobyte MIDI file of just.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Path of Neo was another one that was really good.
That was Xbox where you did. That was the one where you could like walk through the game or walk through the movies as Neo, and like you could go through some of the other some of the stuff, and then
Matrix games
the
are
other
good.
one was Enter the Matrix.
Yes.
Which was like required playing if you wanted to understand anything.
Yeah, that actually
happened
filled in some
Revolutions.
blanks. They shot a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff for that where now you know who Halle Berry is and why she's in that movie. But you had to beat the game.
Halle Berry in that?
Wait,
No,
Jada
Pinkett.
Jada Pinkett. Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Sorry about that.
I think it was before the Smith or either just that or right after.
I think it's right after. But they explain, like, a really well done, they explain why the Oracle looks different in the third movie, which they do not bother to tell you in the actual movie itself.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that would have been useful information.
Yeah,
Besides the fact that
I just remember
actors
doing a
died,
lot of
but
cartwheels and trench coats.
It was great.
But we were all doing that
It was
in the
like
early
the Max
2000s.
Payne bullet time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously we talked about some of the bad ones. You mentioned, no, it's not quite a movie, but it is based on the cartoons, which then became movies, so we will allow it. Superman 64.
Oh yeah, hold B to fly forward. That's not awkward. Just hold this button to move instead of, you have a perfectly two on a Nintendo 64. You have like a joystick, you got a little pad, but no, just hold down this button to move forward. It's like driving a bus with ski poles. It's like the hardest, most awkward way of doing anything. So yeah. Also, Metropolis was conveniently filled with like a pea soup style like fog that made it so they didn't have to draw anything further than like 10 feet away. Brilliant.
See, that was them learning from comic books. If you put fog down, you don't have to draw feet.
Yeah.
That was them learning some valuable lessons. What about you? What are some terrible video games adaptations that you've done?
Man, God, there's so many. I say any single one. I'm sorry, even though I love all these games, any single one that ever came out of Pixar. I love Pixar, all of their games, because I'd play them with my niece, and I'd sit there and like try and explain the gameplay to her, and I thought she was having difficulty because she was 8 and not because they're very badly designed. Because she's like, oh, Auntie, I can't get through this level. And I'm like, how can't? Oh my God, these mechanics are awful. Like every Pixar adaptation has been pretty bad.
Let's see. After GoldenEye, they came out. I think it was just PlayStation, but they did Tomorrow Never Dies. I was like, all right,
wow.
GoldenEye Part 2. I was like, oh no, this is unplayable. That was terrible. Or the
It was the Tomorrow Never Dies of Tomorrow Never Dies.
yeah, it was. It lived up
The
to
same
its
company
name.
made a sequel, but they lost the James Bond license. It was going to be Tomorrow Never Dies or something, but it's called Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark is
Perfect
an
Dark is
amazing
great.
game.
Yeah.
And then it looked cool, but then the movie was terrible, and then the game was worse. Was the Terminator Salvation game, where it was like, oh, you can team up and like take out these Terminators in the future war, and it's just like it's again unplayable. It's so bad.
And then there's the classic one, which I have to actually tell the story and do an explainer of this because I love this story so much. It's one of my favorites. E.T. for the Atari 2600. So this was a game that was made. Oh! Look at how beautiful it is.
I've played it.
Yeah, I've played it.
Yeah.
So it was only, which all of these are, but it was just made because it wanted to
am I
cash
looking
in
at?
Do you
on
see
ET.
that dot?
That's the game.
That's what you're hunting for. That's what
Yeah.
you need to go from screen to screen looking to pick up that little poop biscuit right there.
Yeah.
Paid money
It's like
for this.
Yes, a lot of people paid money for it, and so you have to go and you have to like basically ET is trying to go into these pits, and that's the whole thing is you go into the pit and then you have to get out by stretching ET's.
He stretches his neck all the way
up.
back up to the top of the pit.
Is that canon in the movies?
A lesser known skill of ET. His finger's long, but no, in this one his neck is
His
like
neck.
a jack. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so normally at this time it would take games about 5 to 6 months to be made. This one they did in a few weeks because they were trying to make sure it was rushed out and they wanted to get it out in time for Christmas. And so it actually it sold really, really well. But what happened was Atari thought it was going to make more money than it did, and so they made way too many cartridges. And so they had huge profit losses. They call it the Great Video Game Crash of '83, and that is how it's become to be known as one of the worst games in history. Atari had to do a mass grave of cartridges because they had overproduced a bunch of things that did not sell. And so there is a landfill, much like the game, that is just filled with ET cartridges, but no long neck to get them out. They're just stuck there forever.
Don't worry, Urban Outfitters will dig them up and then sell them for
Ironically.
$90 as vintage video games.
I was actually hoping that, the plague will take us all or something, and then a future civilization will unearth this. And be like, did they worship it? Was this some
was our
sort
god.
of ritual? Yeah. That this will be the only remnant of civilization. That's my hope.
So before video games would be attached to the release of movies, they wouldn't be very detailed, they wouldn't be very expansive. But now video games are so profitable, it's basically like the most profitable form of media. Are there any other IPs that you think would be really good for a Spider-Man PS4, like a really detailed video game universe? Oh, you're ready.
John Wick.
Oh, yeah.
A John Wick game where you're just like playing through bodies and each scene is just... Because like, if you look at a lot of the lighting and scenarios that could be created in games now, it's gorgeous. Like, I think it was Far Cry that recreated the room from Reservoir Dogs, and
Yes,
it looks
I think so.
identical. And I want to play through a John Wick movie. I want to play through Neon Bloodspread. That one's ready for a game.
See, and that's one of those ones where you could pet the dog.
Yeah. And I pet
you
it
could
a
use
lot.
the dog. Yeah, you could shoot the dog at somebody.
Dog cannons. It's a video game. Why not?
When you were playing as John Wick's partner from John Wick 3, Jada Pinkett Smith, you could definitely use her dog attack to stick dogs on people. But yeah, you mentioned Max Payne. It would be like a good Max Payne game. Maybe you could slow down time or set up some combos and stuff like that. That'd be
It
awesome.
could be really cool.
Link a bullet.
Yeah.
Link a bullet.
I don't know if there has to be this, but it's certainly not prominent. But they've got to make like a balls to the wall, just crazy Fast and Furious game.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know why that's not like the hottest selling video game. If there is one already, I'm just not aware of it. But like, you should be able to do like ridiculous things, like drop your car out of a plane and parachute it down to the start of the mission or something.
Grand Theft Auto?
That's
Grand
exactly
Theft
what I was
Auto.
I
thinking.
guess
Right.
yeah, maybe, but I want to actually
branded.
play as
Yeah.
like Dom Toretto.
I want to
you know?
go to Dom Toretto's father's cookouts, you know?
That's where it starts.
Yeah, outside the church. Everybody, let me tell you a story about my father. You're like, why can't I skip this?
Press F for more Coronas.
Press R1 for family.
Yeah, the races are all cutscenes, but you have to play through all the conversations.
Yeah, for me, I guess this, I'm a nerd. I want a Veronica Mars version of a detective game.
Ooh.
Or something like a Phoenix Wright-ish game where she's just going around accusing people and stunning them with her stun gun.
Or like an LA Noire.
Or like L.A. Noire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically a movie because they made one on Kickstarter.
Oh,
Yeah.
fancy that.
It was fine. All right, so this is the time in the show where we remind you that we are Fandom Entertainment, and to like and subscribe, hit that bell. You will get notified of everything that we are doing when it is coming out. There it is.
Bell.
Okay, so we have something really exciting that we've been talking about. We have a new show that's coming out. We already did a sneak peek for everyone, but now we're going to be doing the formal launch, and that is Fandom Uncovered, where we follow different fandoms. And for this one, it's going to be Twilight. It's going to be getting its full public release next Tuesday on June 18th. That is our producer Max with some of the cutouts of the Twilight kids. Apparently, he is Team Jacob, which hardcore boo. But you're going to get to see Roth hanging out in Forks, Washington. So for everybody, Roth has been working really hard on these. So you're going to get all of the Roth you could ever want. And I watched it. It's really charming.
It's really cool because
Yeah.
like it's kind of like, did you ever watch the Bronies documentary where like they went to the BronyCon? It's
missed
like
that one.
it's like this pocket of fandom that you're like, that's a thing, and then you go to like Forks, Washington, where it's like, never heard of that. And then, sorry if you're from there and watching this, but they do like an annual like huge Twilight like festival, and like they some of them like pretend that they're real vampires. Like it's just like, even if you don't care about like the franchise, it's like just crazy to see how in depth like some of these fandoms that you're not a part of, like how much they get into it. It's like a full like documentary. It's not even like a 5-minute video. It's like a full doc. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really great. And just so you know, it is launching on the 18th. So that day we will be taking the day off on that Tuesday. So that's a week from today. I encourage you guys to go watch it. Again, even if you're not super into Twilight or into the fandom, it's just a really nice peek into seeing what other people are into and how their fandoms work. We all have our dorky thing that we love. And so it's nice to get to watch what other people's dorky things are. So please watch and support and share it with your friends. We are really, really proud of the work that we did on that one. A lot of people worked really hard for it.
Boom.
I got 2 bells this time, baby.
The head's ringing.
Ding, ding, dong. Trailer for Frozen 2. This is via YouTube. Frozen 2 released a trailer this morning after airing an initial teaser, which the teaser was, okay.
Whoa.
And so, so it's going to be coming out on November 22nd. So what did we all think of the trailer?
You watched me watch it.
I did watch you watch it.
It's just
like a creep.
She was just like, so how's it going?
Watch that trailer.
There's a whole industry in watching people watch things.
This is true.
It's true.
Yeah.
I got my own Billy Reacts in real time.
It's so much creepier live, though, if you're watching someone react right next to them.
What do you think? What do you think about it?
Feeling anything yet? Look, here's the thing. Obviously, this movie is not made for me, as was the first one. I tend to like a lot of the Disney movies. I thought the first Frozen was, like, it was charming, but also, like, they just had carte blanche to throw in weird things without explaining them at all. Like, from the get-go, they're like, yep, this girl has magic, we don't need to explain why. Yep, there's, like, troll gnome things, don't worry about it. This is just doubling down on that. This whole trailer looks like a weird Magic Eye book or like a scene from Fantasia. I have no idea what any of this means. Great. Cool. Neat. I know it's not for me, but I also know watching it that it's going to make $1 bajillion.
Hey, Billy, is this trailer for you?
I don't think specifically when they made it, they're like, I hope this Billy Patterson books a ticket to this based off this 2-minute clip. Or else this was for naught.
One of the things I really like about kids media, and especially when it comes to Disney stuff, is assuming the intelligence of the audience to where it's just like, here's trolls, here's gnomes, she has powers, we don't need backstory. Because sometimes I don't want to spend all that time in it. I just want to know what world we're in, I want to know what kind of realism we're dealing with, and then just jump right into it. And I did enjoy the first Frozen movie quite a bit. I like the lore that it built. In general, I stan an Ice Queen always. And I do like that in a time when we can't watch a trailer without trying to speculate a trillion things about what it's about, they just gave us just enough. It's just enough to where it's like, interesting visuals, Auntie's been upped, we're not really giving you more of the story, but just know it's escalated. And I like that it's not really something that I can break apart and try and speculate. It's just a tease.
Oh, I can't. Well, and this, again, just from his, the past isn't what you think the past is, and the past is different. I do think that we're going to start to get into either more of how Elsa came to get her powers, or it's going to be something to do with the parents.
Oh, those parents didn't die on that ship.
Them parents didn't die on that ship.
No, they're around. Yeah, but that's the thing is the first one I really liked. I think it was made for me, actually. And I loved it because of that. Because it was like, it seemed very self-contained. I think obviously they weren't thinking sequel until it took over the world. So there was no natural place. There were no unresolved issues between Anna and Elsa and Arendelle for them to be like, but wait, there's more. So they're going to have to conjure something out of nowhere, which is a risky proposition. Yeah. But really, if they can nail the song, then I think everything else gets a lot easier. Yeah. If there's Let It Go again, then they're on easy street.
Keep letting it go.
Keep letting it go. Why haven't you let it go yet?
Because that's what.
Let it go
the
already.
Other half of Frozen success is the song that was everywhere, and that's tough to top.
Yeah. Do you think is it possible? Again, this is another one where it's just impossible to set it up for success because expectations are so high.
I think so.
I think on the song, yeah.
Yeah.
On the song, yeah. Usually whenever there's one movie where it's like, we had the song, you're not going to have the song ever again.
Nope.
Like, you only get one Men in Black song. And then later is the keep their head, nodding your head or whatever.
Nod your head. Yeah.
Bow your head, cross your head, whatever.
Crane your neck like this.
Like an alien. Men in Black 2 song.
That is good. So outside of, obviously, there's going to be toy sales and theme parks and all the kid stuff, what do you think this movie would have to do critically, culturally, and at the box office to be considered a massive success or any success? Do we think it has to reach the heights of the old one, or can it just, as long as it's, within a certain percent?
No, I mean, even if it's 75% of Frozen, that's still 75% of all the money in the world. I think the real warning bell for me, though, for this was when they crapped out Frozen Fever.
Boy, that was bad.
The 15-minute sequel that ran before Moana or something?
I think it was Coco.
Coco? Yeah, it ran before Coco.
Oh, and then they pulled it.
Ooh, because the kids in that theater did not care even a little, which is bad, because as soon as they saw it, they were like, oh, yay, Frozen, and then they were like, I want to get to Coco now.
Yeah, and it's like, I've got little nieces or whatever that were like so on board with Frozen and on, and all of a sudden I need to check back in with them. But like they're grown up now. Like
that's what I was gonna say. It's like a lot of the 6-7-year-olds that saw this are now 13, 14, 15 and are way too cool to go to a Disney movie. That being said, Disney movies tend to have a very long shelf life. So I'm sure Frozen has already been introduced to whatever we're calling the next generation.
Sure. Yeah, and they tend to grow with you because Toy Story did that. I mean,
Toy Story did, but I do also think that Toy Story is an outlier when it comes to Disney sequels. It seems like, I know, I can only think of Pixar off the top of my head, but it's like Finding Dory, Monsters University, Incredibles 2, whether you like them or not is one thing, but none of them reached the heights that the ones before them did. Toy Story being the outlier. So I don't know what their expectations are for Frozen 2, but yeah, I would guess it's like even if it gets to 70% that the last one did, they've already made their money.
Yeah.
They've been making money off Frozen for 6 years now.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't wait until inevitably we get to see them do the Frozen song somewhere, the new one, and it just sounds like a 2-note off version of Let It Go.
Yeah, they're smart.
All right.
Wait.
Just
We
do it
could
again.
we could do the Kroger ripoff of Let It Go, but Kroger Avengers. No, go get the Fruit Loops. I'm not having your little cardboard cereal. The double standards at this table.
Teabag you later.
Billy Mad. All right, so we're going to move on to our next segment, but first, do not forget to check out Vanessa with friends Cameron Wright. Why am I saying this? I know these people. Cameron Rice, Hector Navarro, Kelly Nugent on LA Airway Nation this Thursday at 10:30 p.m. PST. Or
EST.
check the EST. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
EST?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 7:30 PST, 10:30 EST.
Perfect.
Yep.
And check out the show online. Link in description. That's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the show, Vanessa.
God, I've loved doing this show so much. It's such a highlight of my week whenever we tape it. It's just an explosion of like passion and love for just this stuff that we're really passionate about, nerdy fandom stuff in general. We wanted to do it in a way to where it was really accessible, to where if you weren't familiar with a lot of the fandoms, we can make it to where you can jump in even if you've known it for 10 years or if you're just getting into it. For all levels of fandom, we just wanted to make a really great, accessible show just about the stuff we love.
Aw. So go check that out. That will be this Thursday at a time. So
It's a time at a place. We know them both.
And so next story, we've got the Dune series ordered by Warner Media streaming service. This is via Variety. Dune, the Sisterhood, has been giving a straight-to-series order on Warner Media's streaming service. It's going to be from Legendary, who is also producing the Dune film reboot. The pilot is going to be directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is also going to be doing the new reboot as well. It's about the Bene Gesserit, which I have to confess, I read the books a million years ago. All I remember is blue eyes and drugs. That is the most that I remember about Dune. How excited is everyone here about this series?
I'm thrilled. I've always felt like it's more adaptable to a series anyway because it's so content heavy. Like whenever people are like, "Hey, break down Dune for me."
Where to start?
Where to start?
It's Game of Thrones-ish.
Yeah, it's very Game of Thrones-ish in the way it explores like politics and ecology,
Great
and human
houses
emotion.
and subterfuge.
Subterfuge.
Yes.
And Dune is it's something that every single director has wanted to get their hands on at some point. There's not a single director at one point that hasn't been like, I could do Dune. Most of you can't. To be fair, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. There's entire documentaries and studies based on Dune movies that almost got made and didn't get made because it's so much to handle. And it's one of those where whenever I see somebody taking it on, I always get like a little bit nervous because it's like, do you know what you just chose to bite off? But I think the idea of breaking it into a series and making it something a little bit more digestible makes me a little less apprehensive than I normally am when somebody says they're taking on Dune.
So, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I love everything about this, save for the fact that it's on the Warner Media streaming service, because I don't want to sign up for another thing. But maybe, I don't know. I hear they're going to bundle it with HBO and some other stuff.
Yeah,
so
that could
maybe,
work.
but And I love Denis Villeneuve. I can't wait for this movie. The directing the pilot thing is kind of a cheat because it's like how David Fincher made House of Cards. It's
or the show in the 20s, Dudes with the Bottles. I'm losing it and I can't remember it right now. Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
How that was directed by, and then the rest of the series, no.
Yeah. No, it's a
trick.
Whoever the showrunner is deciding what that show is week to week.
Yeah.
But they can come in on episode 1 and be like, here's how it's going to look. So that's kind of interesting because he makes things look good. So how much effect is it that they want to extend it to multiple platforms? Do you think the strategy is going to work? Do you think it's too much Dune too soon? Yeah, I don't even think the movie's going to be a success outside of like cinema nerds. But yeah, it's going to be a Blade Runner 2049 situation where it's like, wow, I can't believe somebody gave him again like $100 million to make something that's like really arcane and complicated and kind of joyless, but amazing.
But like, we're going to watch it a trillion times and then meet up to talk about it and then be like, why do we keep doing this every year? But it's made for the cinematic nerds that are exhausted by media, but we love it anyway.
Yeah. And the Benet, I only read the book, so I don't really know how to pronounce any of the words.
I looked up so much pronunciation this morning. I believe it's the Bene Gesserit was what I'd seen in
Let's
places.
Let's go with Gesserit. From what I recall, like the super interesting thing about them is like they're this order of nuns, and they're like interplanetary, and they kind of seed every world with like a Messiah myth, like a different myth about. It's all like the similar myth with like similar patterns, so that if you're ever stranded on like an ancient planet or like a far off thing, you can basically pretend to be their Messiah, and then that gives you like your kind of like ticket to safety out of there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like the intergalactic Catholic Church, but all women.
It plays a lot on like just the general like piousness in our history involved with religion, like especially like with the spice when it comes to like the prohibition on computers, and it plays a lot on just like the general pious history we've had.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're like always, they're like the maesters in Game of Thrones. They're kind of like counselors and advisors to all these family leaders who are all fighting over that spice.
Okay, and so do they do the drugs, the spice?
I don't remember if they're actually spicing out.
It's something. It's one of those things where it's like to control the masses. I feel like this is going to be the kind of thing where 3 years from now it's going to like blow up like Game of Thrones, and we're going to be like the dorks that don't make sense at the beginning of it. Where it's like read the books.
Yeah, it's a great book. You should all read it.
Yeah.
Billy?
I've never consumed anything in the Duneverse. I've never read a Dune book. I've never watched a Dune movie. I've eaten Lorna Dunes. Those are good.
I feel like Dune is for the kids that's just like, all right, y'all have your dragons. We want our space drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a little bit like Rambo 3.
It's exactly like Rambo 3.
It basically takes place. It's space Afghanistan. Long story short, it's like imagine if like Donald Trump Jr. was like trained in war and got stranded in Afghanistan and had to claw his way back out.
By pretending to be God.
Yes, by pretending to be their savior.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Speaking of a hero who gets stranded on a planet who then has to become a savior, oh my God, I did it. The honest trailer for Captain Marvel is out.
Oh, wow.
What a segue.
Nailed it.
So y'all can go check that out right now. We've also got up honest commentaries. Dan did some charting on Dark Phoenix. Vanessa, besides the show, where else can people find you?
You can find me on all forms of social media under @Gritton, and also check out a lot of the sketches that I write and perform in under Hail Night Church.
Yay! Ryan approves. All right, check out all the other great content that we have on Fandom and on Screen Junkies. Billy, last words.
Go watch her stuff. Go listen to her podcast. Go watch his Power Levels.
Oh, yeah.
We did it! Okay, bye!
Bye!
Content.